Does it fit? Yes. Hi everyone, I'm Jay Monet and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be talking about my indie bookstore crawl. During the last week of April, my birthday came around, and then a few days after that it was National Independent Bookstore Day. There are a lot of independent bookstores in Illinois, in the Chicagoland area specifically, so various independent bookstores in Chicago and the neighboring suburbs decided to celebrate National Independent Bookstore Day by hosting a bookstore crawl. The way it worked was, if you go to 10 of the participating indie bookstores in one day, then you would get 10% off of all the participating stores within the next year. And if you visit 15, which is practically impossible, then you get 15% off for the next year at all participating bookstores. I visited 10. It was both chaotic, but it was also very fun. So these are the bookstores I went to and the books that I got from each store. So my plan was to buy one book from each bookstore, and I kind of went home with 12 books. And I'll explain as I go how that happened. But the first store I went to was Powell's in Hyde Park. And the book I got from there was The Prosaic Soul of Nikki Giovanni. And it includes Gemini Sacred Cows and Other Edibles and Racism 101, with a new afterword from the author. This book is the collection of prose by Nikki Giovanni, who is a well-known famous poet. The next bookstore I went to was 57th Street Books, which is down the street and also in Hyde Park. And what I got from that store was The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. And for those of you who don't know, it's her first novel. And this story is about the tragedies and triumphs of 3 generations of a family. The patriarch, Esteban, is a volatile, proud man whose voracious pursuit of political power is tempered only by his love for his delicate wife, Clara, a woman with a mystical connection to the spirit world. When their daughter Blanca embarks on a forbidden love affair in defiance of her implacable father, the result is an unexpected gift to Esteban, his adored granddaughter Alba. This beautiful and strong-willed child will lead her family and her country into a revolutionary future. This book is magical realism, and I think this is going to be my first magical realism book I'll ever read. Then I went to Seminary Co-op, which is, you guessed it, in Hyde Park, and it's on UChicago's campus. The bookstore is also very nice and modern, and being on UChicago's campus has its advantage. And the book that I got from Seminary Co-op was Devil House by John Darnielle. It's about a man who's a true crime writer who has the opportunity to move into a house where notorious murders happened in the past. And his research ends up going back to him, and he starts looking back into his own stories. So the next bookstore I went to, I left with 3 books, and I'll explain. I went to Exile in Bookville, and it was their 1-year anniversary, so they had free donuts at the register, which me and my mom both enjoyed. And the first book that caught my eye in the store was A Haunting of Alma Fielding, A True Ghost Story by Kate Summerscale. And it's a London in 1938 in the suburbs of the city. A young housewife became the eye in a storm of chaos. In Alma Fielding's modest home, china flies off the shelves and eggs fly through the air. Stolen jewelry appears on her fingers. White mice crawl out of her handbag. Beetles appear from under her gloves. In the middle of a car journey, a turtle materializes on her lap. The culprit is corporeal. Nandor Fodor, a Hungarian ghost hunter for the International Institute for Physical Research, arrives to investigate the poltergeist. But when he embarks on his scrupulous investigation, he discovers that the case is even stranger than it seems. By unraveling Alma's peculiar history, Fodor finds a different and darker type of haunting, a tale of trauma, alienation, loss, and revenge. He comes to believe that Alma's past has bled into her present, her mind into her body. There are no words for processing her experience, so it comes to possess her. So I picked up this book because it made me think of true crime fiction I've read in the past. Namely, the first one that I read which is The Devil in the White City. I read that in 6th grade, I love that so much. But I didn't immediately pick this book up. I didn't want to pick up the first book that I saw. I wanted to see what else they had. So I ended up seeing Ghostland, An American History in Haunted Places by Colin Dickey. And it's basically self-explanatory what this is. And I was like, this is a book for you, Mom. She's like, well, you should get it and read it and tell me about all the places that we can visit. And I was like, going back and forth between these books. I was like, do I want that one? She's like, you can buy both books. And I was like, well, might as well. So my mom is the reason why I bought 2 books from that store instead of 1. Yes, I'm blaming you, Mom. But then they also have free books outside of the store. I love when bookstores have, well, it's usually independent bookstores, but I love when they have free books also outside of their door. So I picked up Brother, I'm Dying by Edwidge Danticat. She is also the author of Breath, Eyes, Memory, which I've read before and I own also. And it's a memoir by Edwidge. And it centers the men in her family. The next bookstore I went to was the Shelley Z and Bernd X Rosenberg bookshop inside the Newberry Library, where they had 3 bookmarks readily available, and I took all 3. I love when bookstores have free bookmarks and free things in general, but you can never have too many bookmarks. And so as soon as I walked inside the bookstore, I saw a book that I've been waiting for such a long time. It was a new release, and it's The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. And it is about, it's basically Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca. And it says, during the overthrow of the Mexican government, Beatrice's father was executed and her home destroyed. When handsome Don Rodolfo Solorzano proposes, Beatrice ignores the rumors surrounding his first wife's sudden demise, choosing instead to seize the security that his estate in the countryside provides. She will have her own home again no matter the cost, but Hacienda San Isidro is not the sanctuary she imagined. When Rodolfo returns to work in the capital, visions and voices invade Beatrice's sleep. The weight of invisible eyes follows her every move. Rodolfo's sister, Juana, scoffs at Beatrice's fears, but why does she refuse to enter the house at night? Why does the cook burn copal incense at the edge of the kitchen and mark the doorway with strange symbols? What really happened to the first Doña Solorzano? Beatrice only knows 2 things for certain. Something is wrong with the hacienda, and no one there will save her. Desperate for help, she clings to the young priest, Padre Andres, as an ally. No ordinary priest, Andres will have to rely on his skills as a witch to battle the malevolent presence haunting the hacienda. Far from a refuge, San Isidro may be Beatrice's doom. The next bookstore that I went to was City Lit Books in Logan Square, where I finally found the book that I've been looking for in all these bookstores. I didn't want to get it from Barnes & Noble. I wanted to get it in an independent bookstore, but it was Recitative, I think that's how you say it, from Toni Morrison, and it's the only short story she's ever written. And she's on the back, and it was been published before, but they republished it with the introduction by Zadie Smith. And for those of you who don't know what the short story is about, Twyla and Roberta have known each other since they were 8 years old and spent 4 months together as roommates in the St. Bonaventure shelter. Inseparable at the time, they lose touch as they grow older, only to find each other later at a diner, then at a grocery store, and again at a protest. Seemingly at opposite ends of every problem and in disagreement each time they meet, the 2 women still cannot deny the deep bond their shared experiences forged between them. The next bookstore that I went to was the Book Cellar in Lincoln Square, and that one was pretty packed. I mean, as soon as you walk inside the door, you hit the line, and it was hard to maneuver around the bookstore. But I bought Memphis by Tara M. Stringfellow from the bookstore, and what I know about it is that it's a generation's tale. So it's a tale of multiple generations in a family. Summer 1995, 10-year-old Joan, her mother, and her younger sister flee her father's explosive temper and seek refuge at her mother's ancestral home in Memphis. This is not the first time violence has altered the course of the family's trajectory. Half a century earlier, Joan's grandfather built this majestic house in the historic black neighborhood of Douglas, only to be lynched days after becoming the first black homicide detective in the city. Joan tries to settle into her new life, but family secrets cast a longer shadow than any of them expected. As she grows up, Joan finds relief in her artwork, painting portraits of the community in Memphis. One of her subjects is their enigmatic neighbor, Miss Dawn, who claims to know something about curses, whose stories about the past help Joan see how her passionate imagination and relentless hope are, in fact, the continuation of a long matrilineal tradition. Joan begins to understand that her mother, her mother's mother, and the mothers before them persevered, made impossible choices, and put their dreams on hold so that her life would not have to be defined by loss and anger, that the sole instrument she needs for healing is her paintbrush. I love the cover for this as well. The next bookstore I shopped at was Unabridged Books, and it's in, I believe, Lakeview East. I know it's on the north side. I forget where exactly, but I bought The Fisherman by John Langan, and this was recommended to me by someone on Tumblr. It says, in upstate New York and the woods around Woodstock, Dutchman's Creek flows out of the Ashokan Reservoir. Steep banked, fast moving, it offers the promise of fine fishing and of something more, a possibility too fantastic to be true. When Abe and Dan, two widowers who have found solace in each other's company and a shared passion for fishing, hear rumors of the creek, of what might be found there, the remedy to both their losses, they dismiss it as just another fish story. Soon, though, the men find themselves drawn into a tale as deep and old as the reservoir. It's a tale of dark pacts, of long-buried secrets, and of a mysterious figure known as Der Fischer, the fisherman. It will bring Abe and Dan face to face with all that they have lost and with the price they have to the price they must pay to regain it. And this is, I was told, a horror. So there are 2 bookstores left and 2 books left. The last bookstore that I went to in Chicago was Pilsen Community, and that's where I got Worsenshire's new poetry collection, Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head, which is similar to her original chapbook that everybody loves to rave about, and it's kind of focuses on both her mother and herself and other girls in her family, and I already read it. It was a 5-star rate for me. It was really good. And finally, I went to Naperville on the way home as my final shop, and I went to Anderson's Books and got In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead, and this is BookTube's darling. This is a thriller by Ashley Winstead, and it's about Jessica Miller deciding to go to her university 10 years after graduation, and she wants them to see that she is confident and beautiful and indifferent, and not how she was when she left the campus, when someone's murder changed her life, including the bond linking her and her friends together since they were freshmen. It says, not everyone is ready to move on. Not everyone left Duquette 10 years ago, and not everyone can let Heather's murder go unsolved. Someone is determined to trap the real killer to make the guilty pay. When the 6 friends are reunited, they will be forced to confront what happened that night, In the year's worth of secrets, each of them would do anything to keep hidden. It's told in racing dual timelines with a dark campus setting and a darker look at friendship, love, obsession, and ambition. What's cool about this book is that my current professor worked with the publicity of this book, and she's working with the publicity of Ashley Winstead's upcoming title as well. What's great is that we get to learn a little bit about how the publicity team went about promoting this book and her upcoming book, and how they discussed the cover art for both this book and the upcoming book, which I'm excited about as well. My goal was to buy books from multiple genres. Since I read multiple genres, I didn't want to come home with all like just horror books or just nonfiction or just poetry, so I came out with magical realism, thrillers, poetry, horror, nonfiction as well. And I think it was a very successful book haul. I didn't really want to do book hauls on my channel, but this was a special case because of National Indie Bookstore Day, and I want to try this again in the future. They said they're gonna do it again next year, and I think it was kind of hard to get through all of them because some slim stories closed earlier than others, and they didn't really like extend the hours for the most part for most stores. But hopefully I'll be able to try this again next year and maybe get to 15. Who knows? Probably not. It'll just be 10 again. But this was a successful book haul. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.